Coming to you live from the free state of Florida, it is Freedom Hawk Live, and I'm back. I'm Dean. I'm here with Andrew.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the show.
And Anna.
Hi guys, good to be back.
Yeah, all the way from Central Florida. So we've had another great week in the news, and a lot of things that we want to talk about. That just some eye-opening stuff finally coming out that we've waited a long time for. Trump at the Libertarian National Convention this weekend. So that's kind of a historic moment. That's the first time a front-running presidential candidate has taken the opportunity and the time to visit with a minority party.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
And well, it doesn't happen. And they invited all the candidates, and
Trump accepted the invite.
Trump accepted. And
Joe Biden did not.
He did not. Did he?
Oh wow, he was invited.
He did not.
He was invited. The chairperson said that he was invited and he declined to appear. So
That's interesting.
yeah. So we'll talk about that, and then we also have the special committee on Dr. Morin's from the NIAID.
Yeah.
And the investigation into the use of government email to avoid FOIA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's all coming out.
yeah. So what do you guys want to start with? You want to start with the FOIA stuff, or you want to start with the?
I think let's start with that.
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So the special committee, they had Dr. Moyens appear in front of the special committee from Congress.
Yeah, House Special Committee.
Right.
It was a select committee, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
they've been going for 3 months now, and I think they have 7 months left.
Are you
So
serious?
they're just at the beginning of it.
7 months left of the House session.
Yeah.
This is just taking way too long. These investigations, I can't imagine. I mean, don't they have enough evidence already?
Well, he basically hung himself on this last one.
Well, it's over then.
Does it ever seem to you guys like the time constraints of like the House session and the time between the when they come into the next Congress
To when the actual
limits,
facts are revealed.
limits how much they ever do with it?
Right.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes.
I think that's by design,
It may be.
or it's so because I mean all the different congressmen are on different committees,
Right.
so they could be on like 3 committees at once. So probably not to overwhelm them or something, because they're public servants. They have a lot going on.
Right. And a lot of time. And
show up.
and a lot of time
Have you
off.
ever watched?
I'm glad you caught that.
Have you ever watched C-SPAN?
Being facetious.
Have you ever watched C-SPAN?
Yeah, number one.
Most of the
rated show.
time,
And they're
the
not
House
there.
chamber is empty. Yeah.
They're just talking to an empty room.
Right. They show up
Yeah.
to give their speech
To
but
an
they
empty
don't-
room.
Yeah, they don't care to listen to each other with any nobody's
Right.
swaying hearts
So-
and minds in those.
Yeah, so going
sessions.
back to what the session was about in the investigation.
So that was what was so interesting and disturbing. Really was they unveiled his emails
From 2020,
Yeah.
2021, and 2022.
and these are emails between Dr. Morin's at the NIAID
And
and,
Dr.
Dr. Fauci and other doctors with the NIH.
But
And
the
the
special
person
part
from-
of the email, I'm sorry.
Hold on, but
Go
Eco
ahead.
Health Alliance.
Yes.
We're forgetting that Eco Health Alliance
Okay.
factor, right?
Right.
Because they're the ones that were part of the grant for the gain of function research underwriting at the
Exactly.
lab at Wuhan.
Oh,
That's where it all. That's
There's
why
the
it's
rabbit
so.
hole. Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, no, I mean it shows that when they were writing the grants for Wuhan to do the gain of function research, he was instrumental in leading how the grants were written for the proposals. So he knew everything,
He knew all the ins and outs and using
right?
Gmail.
Dean's fact
I've got
checking us to make sure.
No, you're good. I've got I actually have the oversight committee's published press release pulled up here, just so we can read some of the high points to you. But Dr. Morin's was publicly held accountable for undermining operations of the U.S. government, deleting federal COVID-19 records, and using his personal email account to evade Freedom of Information Act requests.
Well, and he even says it in his emails that they captured from Gmail that said, "I'm doing this because
Right.
they can't be checked. They can't be FOIA.
So they found emails from his government email to Dr. Fauci and other doctors in their circle saying, use my private email to communicate with me so that we can avoid
We can
these
stay
FOIA
off
So
record.
question, why is Fauci still walking around free?
Yeah. Well, if
Have we heard from Fauci lately?
he's been
Ever since
off
he
the
get-
radar.
I mean, he was on
Is
T-shirts.
he in a basement somewhere?
I mean, Fauci. I mean, did you see those T-shirts?
He
going
was
back
he
to-
was the Lord and Savior of the left.
in
yeah,
Fauci
did
we
you see that
trust.
flag?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
saw the
Fauci we
flag.
trust.
Did you
that
see
they
the
were-
T-shirts?
The flag
Yeah.
with
Trust
his
the
face
science.
on
Yeah,
it.
trust the science.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
the
mean,
science.
I think this stuff is very incriminating for Dr. Morans, but I think it leads ultimately
To
to
Fauci
But it
and
leads,
all of
it
them.
leads
Some
to the
problems for
Eco Health
Fauci.
Alliance guy.
Yeah,
I can't
all
think of
of
his name. Or what was his name?
that was Dr. Datsik.
Datsik.
Yeah,
yes.
Dr. Datsik.
And he
And
was
so-
in.
I don't
he
recall
was,
that one.
But Datsik was interviewed in the Epic Times documentary about the origins of COVID.
Yeah, so that was one of the takeaways from this select committee hearing was that Dr. Morans was using his private email to back channel with Dr. Datsik
Yeah.
to avoid
To avoid
being
to
seen
avoid the
and heard.
situation that's
Yeah.
happening now.
Right.
And boom, it just explodes and it's all now out in the open.
Well, this
Yes.
What day was this? Thursday that we saw this because we watched it live as it was happening.
Wow.
I think
No,
I completely
Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
I think
Yeah,
it was Friday.
and so it was really eye opening. I think some of this stuff is like this is all stuff that they said trust the science, and we have to.
I mean, it
ties
goes
in with the
mask mandates,
mask mandates.
and the spread, the perimeter, the 6 feet,
Disinformation.
the disinformation, all of it.
So I mean, all the things they said about we have to fight disinformation, we have to fight
and get vaccinated.
and I mean, in some countries, you look at Australia. If you questioned the COVID story in
You were
Australia,
arrested.
they would arrest people for
Yeah.
for
It ruined your
denying it.
life.
And they try to do that to us here.
Well,
Now we're finding out it was all true.
I want to know if Grayson Murray, the golfer, was vaxxed.
Who?
Grayson Murray he took his own life.
I thought he.
No, he took it. That's a different thing.
Oh, okay.
I know who you're talking about. That was the one that just died.
Yeah, just Saturday.
Yeah, I believe.
Who is this?
Grayson Murray, he was a golfer.
Oh, like on the
Pro
PGA,
go-
PGA
yeah.
Tour golfer.
Something.
I believe that's what happened with that. I believe they said he
Are
took
you
his.
sure? I thought he dropped dead.
I don't want to tell anyone wrong. If you want to,
Well, there's been a few names lately of people just
I'll look it up.
dropping dead lately.
yeah. Well, a lot of athletes have dropped dead since the vaccine.
Yeah.
And there was a whole. Did you ever
Young,
see that
healthy
website
people.
of the athletes?
But no, I haven't.
So there was a
seen.
website tracking all of the professional athletes that had died from blood clotting from the vaccine.
Oh wow.
Well, supposedly associated with the vaccine.
You're dropping dead on the
since COVID.
Dropping
Right.
dead.
Yes, and it's everything from football players to basketball players,
Soccer
track
players.
stars, soccer players, and these are international athletes. It's not just
Young,
America.
healthy people.
So
Yes.
so going back to the hearing, where do you think it goes?
I mean, where does it go, or where is it supposed to go? Because I don't. I mean, where does it go?
I mean, where we would like it
is
to
kind
go.
of a loaded question. I mean,
Yeah, where we would like it to go is to
Where it's-
ultimately incriminate Fauci and
well,
get some of the people that
it needs to incriminate whoever was responsible for lying to the American people and to the world. Really, I
Which
mean, I
would
think.
be Fauci.
Shouldn't foreign governments be upset over this?
Yes.
Why are we not hearing anything from foreign governments
Why aren't-
angry about America
the
exposing
World
Doing gain of
Health
function
Organization?
Yeah.
yeah, WHO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Oh, they're controlled by China, and
Of course.
apparently that's a whole separate conversation that we can get into also in a little bit because that did happen last week. They had that convention in Geneva
Yeah.
for the WHO, so we can talk about that here shortly. Let's
Right.
but I think where this is supposed to go is that now that Congress has uncovered admitted wrongdoing. I mean, he admitted to it.
And the majority of Congress.
He
know.
very much incriminated himself, didn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh no, I mean he
Watching
was
it.
like you said, either he's the sacrificial lamb or
So where this is,
He's just really bad with a poker face.
I mean, where this should go is they've now uncovered an admission of guilt and a crime.
Yep.
It should be, I would think, referred to the Department of Justice for prosecution.
Yeah.
Because there should
Good
be
luck.
criminal action taken.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How many people died because of COVID? How many people
Millions.
died
Millions
worldwide?
of
Millions.
people worldwide.
I can't.
I mean, that's what they tell us.
But it wasn't because of COVID per se.
Well, the left would tell us that
there
all
was
those people
also-
died from COVID.
Right.
There was
So-
also no
so
count for the flu in 2020.
Based on their numbers, millions of people died because of COVID and because of the actions that this group of doctors took to hide it.
True. I think they died more from the vaccines, but I think.
Oh yeah. Well,
But those vaccines
Well, I'm
were
not
pushed
commenting
because
on.
of
I'm not
COVID.
commenting on the vaccines. What
No,
I'm saying
I
is
know that. I'm just
their
saying
story. Their story is
I
that
know.
millions of people died from COVID. Okay, and let's accept that people did die from whatever it was, right?
Sure.
I mean, whether you believe it was the flu or
Oh,
something
yeah, no,
different.
I mean, it
but
happened.
it happened. People
People
died
did die. Yes.
oh yeah.
from it. The vaccine's a separate thing, but
Right.
their narrative is that this pandemic killed millions of people.
Yeah.
If we know who's responsible for it, why are they not being held accountable?
Good question.
How many lifetimes of
because the left is
how many
in charge right
lifetimes
now.
of prison is that for
I'm
killing?
not sure if
you
it's
know-
the left or just the deep state and the left is rolling over.
Well,
and
the
being
left is
complacent to
the
it.
left is very much in bed with the deep state, and so are the rhinos who are pretending to be conservative, but who are in cahoots in bed with these criminals. And that's
are your
exactly
thoughts?
what they are. They are criminals. They're murderers. And I'm just over this. I'm really over it.
I did everything right, and they indicted
You pushed a button,
me.
but I don't have headphones, so I can't hear.
I
you.
know.
It was Trump.
Oh.
I did everything right, but they indicted me.
Jeez.
Don't worry about the buttons on the board.
I kinda worry
might
about 'em.
buttons.
Yeah, now he's got to push something when I talk, and,
And
I'm
we
like,
can't
oh, wait,
even
what
hear
did I do? That'll get us to wear headphones.
Anyway, but yeah, I mean, this should ultimately, I would think, go to the Justice Department and the Attorney General for prosecution. The question is, will that happen?
It's okay.
Will that
Even
happen?
if it gets there, the administration is not going to do anything about it. Look who's in charge of the DOJ. Okay,
Yeah.
he's the one who ordered the assassination of Trump. He
Basically.
ordered it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you think that they're going to go after Fauci? No way.
Did you see the warrant for the Mar-a-Lago raid?
I did not.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually pulled it up the other day, and if you look at it, not only did it authorize use of force against the former president, which is
Staff.
disturbing,
Yeah.
staff, but the craziest thing, just my opinion,
Yep.
it authorized use of force against the U.S. Secret Service.
Yep.
That's right.
It's like Civil War level stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
Two law enforcement
Agencies against each other.
involved in a potential violent conflict
Well, if you have federal agents,
would
the
have been
FBI,
really bad for this country.
Oh yeah. I mean,
From a certain point of view, I guess maybe that's what they wanted.
I think
They wanted to assassinate Trump. That was their
They
that
want-
was their
well,
end
they
game.
want destabilization.
I mean, I think all of the above. I mean, it's they put it in there in case it happened, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess he wasn't. I don't think he was there.
He
when they
wasn't
did.
at home. I think Melania was.
so
Yeah.
what was the whole? So going back to this, because this really bothers me, and we talked about this a little bit the other day. All of the jackets that they used that said top secret.
The jackets.
So all the jackets for all the documents that the FBI,
on the yeah, okay, the
Yes.
envelopes.
Yeah, so like all the documents, the smoking gun, if you will, that led to this entire. Trump had classified documents, SCI documents, TS documents in his house in Mar-a-Lago. Did you see where those jackets came from? The FBI brought those with them and set up a photo shoot with
They
those
planted
documents.
them. Yes, they did.
Planted those,
Well, and
those
the
jackets.
warrant, the
Yes, they
warrant
did.
has a list of what they were supposed to bring to the raid. So it lists all those things.
Oh, it also specified about how they should dress. That they should
Yes.
dress in golf
It
shirts.
said they should dress,
They should not look like
FBI,
law
federal
enforcement.
agents.
Like law enforcement, they should
Like the
dress
blue FBI jackets and all that with
Correct.
the yellow text.
correct.
Yeah. And
The whole thing was set up though, because if
Of course it
if
was.
they brought those jackets, the documents under those jackets were clearly not classified.
well, either way, Trump had notified the National Archives that he had those documents in his possession. They instructed him to lock those documents up until they
Right.
could come retrieve the documents. And several months later, the FBI showed up to get the documents. It shouldn't have been a big problem. We have President Biden
Put him in his
as
Corvette.
vice president, leaving documents in his garage in a box
Yeah,
in
in
the garage.
Delaware.
Yeah,
When he had no right to them in the first place.
at an unoccupied home where anybody can wander in and or
Right.
break
So
into
how
the home.
can
and
the
find
vice president take classified documents yet and not be arrested?
Well, and if you believe some of what the opposing media says, like Fox and stuff, they would say, well, all of the former presidents have kept documents of some sort, so they say.
That's correct, but
You know,
this was
so-
before he was president.
So
Yeah, I mean, it's problematic for sure. But
I mean, it just goes back to the fact that they staged the documents.
I did everything right, and they indicted
I know what you
me.
you're learning the buttons now, right?
I'm learning the colors.
Yeah, we have a new audio system, by the way, so we're able to bless you with these
Play around.
great sound effects. And things.
Yeah, Dean's got the console.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, yeah, that's I
It's
think
just like the whole thing was set up.
absolutely it was.
Of course it was set up.
They knew he had it.
Their plan was to stage that photo shoot and basically conquer and divide and rile up the base of everybody involved with those photos on social media that said TSSCI clearance, endangering Americans' lives overseas, endangering people's lives in the intelligence community.
Yeah,
Who knows what documents those really were?
Well, and Trump now at his speech at the Libertarian Convention,
Yeah.
he opened up by saying they've done this to me, they've come after me for this, and this. If you've paid attention to our show or the news,
And the witch hunt up in New York.
yeah, I mean, there's the witch hunt in New York is the big one now, but he's been in court for the last 3 years, going on 4 since he's been out of office. He was in court the entire time he was in office. The last 8 years, the man's been in court over every petty little thing they can make up and come up with, and
yet-
a lot of
and
these
yet
things
He
are
nothing
was
fake.
still
sticks.
able to run the country.
Nothing sticks.
Nothing, but he opened up his speech at the Libertarian Convention by saying, "If I wasn't a libertarian before, I am now,"
Right.
which is a big statement to unpack, right?
Yeah, I never thought I would hear a...
Yes, Mr. Libertarian yourself.
About me? Well, I mean, it's Trump being the front runner in the race,
Right.
and saying, I mean, yes, he is running as a Republican, but him going up on stage and saying, "I'm a libertarian," that's kind of a
That's huge.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, that's
deal.
huge.
And of course, the crowd there, we can get into that too, but the crowd there didn't appreciate it very much because they had some interesting booing and hissing about to say about it. But for the presidential frontrunner to say, "I'm a libertarian now," because of, I mean, ultimately between the lines, what he said is the big government's a problem.
Well,
Exactly.
The big government's been beating him up even before he was elected.
Because it's the uniparty.
Right.
Well, it's the deep state party.
Correct. But that's
That's the uniparty, I guess. It's whoever wants to play ball, whoever's got dirt on somebody that they want to keep them in line. It's
well, they get dirt. They make sure that they get dirt.
or people put themselves in positions
Right.
where they are able to get the dirt on those people.
What does it mean to be conservative? Politically conservative. What does that mean?
I think it's limited government overreach. So you want the government to have limited overreach on your decisions as
Focus
daily
on the
as
family
American.
unit. Focus on
Traditional family values.
Correct.
Christian family values. Dare I say it, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, our country was founded on Christian beliefs.
Right.
That's right.
In God we trust.
That's right.
Yeah. The social
Construct.
association, the social association of conservative is that it's the family values, the Christian values.
One man, one woman.
It's values
marriage.
oriented.
Yeah.
But the political theory behind conservatism is the first thing that Andrew said.
Small government.
Yeah, small government.
Minimizing the power and authority of the federal government and the national government.
The overreach of it.
Yeah.
Right.
The overreach,
Limiting.
the government spending.
Right. The amount of organizations that are created to run the government.
How many just what's the word I'm looking for? It's driving me crazy. Duplicate departments do we have that
Oh, there's probably like 200 of them.
that do the same thing, and we're just giving them money. And as we're talking about this is one of my biggest pet peeves right now. Is we're giving all this money to Ukraine, Israel, all these other countries right now, Gaza.
Well, the military industrial complex
Yes.
is.
When we have our veterans are out
yeah.
on the streets. Families are losing their homes.
Yeah.
Families are having to work 2-3 jobs just to provide food on the table. And we're giving all our money. What about our people? This is such a pet peeve of mine right now. I'm
Well, I'll take it a step further. What about all the illegal immigrants that are coming from our southern borders?
and they're getting all the money.
And
you know,
they're
it makes
getting
me
all the
want to
money.
go cross the border. I speak Spanish. I can just come across the border and say, no hablo español, no hablo inglés. You know, mi nombre es
Well, if you want to come
Maria,
back and not pay taxes,
Maria Gonzalez. And what, maybe I can get some money, $5,000 a month. Hey, I'll take it.
so there was a report. I don't remember what station it was on, but I think you were watching.
Was that the
it too.
Epic Times?
Yeah, I think it was
yeah,
the Epic Times.
Epic Times did a really good special
They're
on
talking-
the NGOs that are bringing the immigrants
But
into the
they're
country
talking
from Latin
about
America.
like they're putting them up in some of these 5-star hotels
Yes.
in New York and San Francisco and stuff.
And of course, trashing them.
But
so
they're
this
but they're
stuff is-
costing tens of thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah, and this stuff is being paid for by non-government organizations, NGOs,
Yeah, this is
through UNICEF and the United Nations using American money.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Okay, we
Well,
are the
that's
biggest
called money
contributor to the
laundering.
UN.
Yeah, no, they take
But
it
they-
and they reappropriate it and reclassify
Right.
it.
And that's how they get away
crazy.
with it, is they're using our tax money that we and everybody out there
I
in
believe that's
America
called,
are.
is that racketeering?
Well, they're giving the
Well-
money to the UN, which is then giving it to UNICEF, which is then giving it to
It's definitely
to
money
these
laundering.
NGOs.
Oh, they just keep passing hands, right?
Yeah, and eventually, it gets to the point where they're giving it directly to the illegal
The
immigrants, and it starts in Colombia and Panama. They cross the Darien Gap into Panama. As soon as they get there, they land in a UN sponsored camp,
convoy.
hosted by the NGOs. And as long as they stay at that camp, the Panamanian government will not deport them.
No, because they have that agreement.
Well, because they signed the UN refugee agreement,
Right.
But also, if they intervene, if the host countries intervene, these NGOs will sue them in international court.
Oh yeah, no, and that's their. It's crazy. It's like the biggest scheme of
it's-
money laundering, like you just said.
It really is.
yeah, it's-
it's just
But going back to my question about conservatives,
Oh yeah,
one of the, I think, more underrated amendments to our U.S. Constitution is the 10th Amendment.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the 10th Amendment?
no. Unfortunately,
No.
I'm not.
So the 10th Amendment
But I
is
heard somebody talking about it this
So
week.
we talk about the First Amendment and the Second
Second
Amendment,
Amendment.
and the Third and the Fourth. But the 10th is the one that reserves all rights not explicitly granted to the federal government in the Constitution,
Constitution,
are reserved
yes.
for the states. This is the 10th Amendment is what this country went to war in the Civil War over.
Right.
Okay. It was the right to, at that time, the southern states' right to secede and leave the
Well,
Union.
it's the states to self-govern, right?
Right.
Essentially.
and self-govern. And I think for libertarians in particular, this is where this is probably one of the biggest issues for them is limiting the federal government. I think Trump now, after being on the bad end of
The
all
receiving
the
end of
receiving
all
end
that
of all of this
BS,
legislation
yeah.
and the weaponization of our federal government, he's saying, if I wasn't a libertarian, I am now.
Right.
That's right.
Well, I think it's just we've gone from one extreme to the far other extreme.
Yeah.
And now people are just like, enough's enough. Like, we need to right this ship before the whole thing implodes on itself.
The 10th Amendment is probably one of the most unique parts of the U.S. Constitution that is unique from other countries in the world.
Right.
And it's unique because it pushes the power down to the states and the local municipalities. So a city has a lot of power within their territory,
Right.
and a county has a lot of power within their territory to write their own laws and their own city ordinances and,
Right.
and govern without being interfered with by the state. And likewise, the states have a lot of authority. On this immigration issue, you have the state of Texas on the front lines of the border
Yeah. And there's
issue.
nothing they can do about
Well,
it.
on this immigration issue, I'd like to make a point
Yeah.
that Biden is apparently flying in more immigrants into Florida just as an FU to DeSantis.
Right.
And they don't know
I will build
where they're
a
flying
great,
into. He's
great
flying in
wall
like 12 at a
on our
time
southern border, and I will have Mexico
into
pay
different
for that wall.
airports across
Mark my
the
words.
state.
Yeah.
And they can't track them. They don't know where they're coming from. They don't know where they're landing. So
Well, actually, they do track them. You know how they track them?
how do they track them?
Homeland Security has an app, a smartphone app.
So I was going to say they track them through facial recognition.
No, they also get tracked. These illegal immigrants coming into our country, they set up an appointment to surrender to Homeland Security, and then they get brought in, put into a camp at the border, and then they get sent all over the country. So do
they have a
Homeland
cell
Security
phone?
knows
Do
where
they have
go.
a cell phone with them or some sort? What do they have with them?
They have a UN provided cell phone.
Oh yeah.
You're joking.
No.
Okay,
And
this blows my
The
mind.
cell phones
my
are provided
understanding
by
of-
the
Providing them
NGOs.
with UN cell phone?
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. And my understanding is they're being flown in private planes.
They may
We
be
heard
on privately.
We heard something about that.
They're,
Where
they're
they
not
charter.
flying into international airports. They're being flown into smaller
They
regional
are-
airports.
Well, people are seeing them at the airports. I mean, have you not seen those videos?
No, I haven't.
So
Yeah,
people are
there's been
taking
immigrants getting off
videos
the plane.
of all the planes full of immigrants, but the airlines that are flying the immigrants around are being chartered.
I
So
feel like suing the federal government.
chartered, but they're private chartered. They're sponsored by these
Take a number.
NGOs. And well, see, that's
Why
just
not?
It's the NGOs that are.
Isn't it my right?
doing
Right, but isn't it my right to sue the federal government?
The problem is,
This
is
is
like,
how they're getting around
but
that.
they're getting
is
around
the
it 'cause the
non-government
NGOs.
organizations are the ones that are
Great.
chartering these planes, moving
Let's
them all over the
let's
country.
file a lawsuit against
And-
unnaming all of them.
Well, there's so much going on. I'm trying to keep it on straight.
I'm just so
But
ticked off right now.
The hearings with Mayorkas,
Right?
that's what
where
that's
they
the
That's a
beginning.
joke.
the
No, but that's
Mayorkas impeachment that
that's
they
the
just sort of let
beginning
it
of
fall
it.
Yeah,
through and let
that
it
was a
slide.
total joke.
Yeah, that was
Well,
the
that's
whole
because
point
the
of,
NGOs paid for his.
Yeah, so
Right?
So
I mean,
these
he's-
chartered aircraft are flying into international airports and they're deplaning all these.
But
all
it's
these
not the
illegal
government
immigrants.
organizations booking those
I
flights.
don't think so.
It's the NGOs
I mean, from
Working
everything
with
that we
the Biden
that I've read and seen,
administration.
working under.
I mean, if you take the Epic Times piece
Yeah.
and extrapolate the behavior of how are these people getting here,
Oh, yeah.
it stands to reason that the NGOs are also involved once they get to the U.S.
It also stands to reason that the NGOs are
Because that would be
they're
how
profiting off of this as well.
Well, that would be how they get
course.
around. Well, they're funded by U.S. taxpayer money, so yeah, that's and ultimately this is being done.
It's given to them by the Biden administration,
So let me get this straight. They're getting free cell phones.
which is why I
They're
want to
getting
sue the
free
federal
room and
government.
board.
They're also getting money for their trip once they reach Panama.
They're getting stipends.
Yeah, they get either a pay card like an
don't
EBT
even-
card, or they get envelopes of cash to pay for the expenses on their trip from
So
Panama
let's
to the
just
U.S.
compare
border.
and contrast. What's the average American? What's the requirement to like survive nowadays with average rent or mortgage
Oh,
and
wow.
food
Oh,
costs?
forget it.
Like $5,000-$6,000 a month, right? At minimum,
Probably.
right? So, wow.
Right?
Right.
You want to finish that thought? Is your just brain is breaking over this?
Yeah, you got anything where there's a car crash sound on your board?
I mean, I've got that.
What it,
It's a trombone.
that one, yeah. Because that just blows my mind. It's like you have all these people in this country that pay all these tax dollars.
And they're struggling.
Yeah,
They
they're
are
struggling.
to keep
Everybody's
food on the
struggling,
table.
yeah.
I mean, I was just hearing about in New York, a dozen eggs, $14.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
$14 for a 12 eggs.
A dozen eggs.
Well, and that, again, things that Trump talked about in his speech to the libertarians
Right.
was he's the only president in the last 70 years that didn't start any foreign wars.
Yeah, let's talk
right.
about that.
So maybe this is a good time to get into Trump's speech. The only president that didn't start any foreign wars. If you're struggling to buy eggs at $14 a dozen,
Right.
do you really want your tax money going to Ukraine and Israel and Nigeria and Taiwan and all these other places?
No.
Why would anybody?
Because I
Why?
don't.
I know I
No,
don't.
it's like because we can't survive here. Why are we so concerned about like if we wake up in the morning, our first thought is, oh, free Palestine. Oh, all these poor people and you.
yeah. What about poor
Ukraine.
us?
It's
What
like,
about poor us?
Yeah.
What? I mean, I get it. It's good to think about the other person and your neighbor and stuff, but
Absolutely.
it's like
We got to take care of things at home first
Well,
before we can take care of
gonna
anybody
happen.
else.
Here's what's going to happen. Ultimately, who's going to take care of us, right? We've talked about this because it's like we take care of everybody else in the world. Well, we know what it is, though. It's the military-industrial complex, and it's the agencies and alphabet soup that all is used to destabilize, right? It's this
And create
The
chaos.
special interests.
yeah,
The
it's special interests, but it's not even special interests. I mean, you and I watched that documentary about just the insane things over the past 60 years that the U.S. government has been a part of, right? We'll just leave it at that.
Right.
And
And there's so much more. I mean, that was scratching the
that was
surface.
Well,
the tip of the iceberg,
Kennedy.
no pun intended.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
we're basically talking about intelligence agency regime change stuff.
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
that's
Basically,
largely
like,
declassified, but it's
it's all
you know.
declassified. I mean,
Some of it is.
what we watched was, I hope.
But what's happened?
How much of it was redacted?
How much of it? Yeah, really.
Well, but no, it talks
probably
about
there's
like,
a lot we'll never know.
but
There's
it
a lot we'll
talks
never
about
know.
all these different terrorist attacks all over the
everything-
globe in different parts of the country.
that we weren't aware of.
I mean, even
no,
bef-
that we weren't aware of, but we actually caused.
yeah, even
Oh, I believe
before
that.
World War II, our government was involved in regime change in the
course.
Philippines
Of
and all over
course.
Latin America.
I believe it also happened in World War One.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah,
So there was a lot of things happening. I mean,
And by the way, I don't believe the Titanic struck an iceberg.
that
well, so that's why I
we
just
should
said.
do
That's why I
a
just
whole
said.
We definitely
episode
need
about
to
the
That's
do
why I
that.
just said it's just the tip of the
Titanic is-
iceberg, no pun intended.
Yeah, the
Because-
Titanic is a whole interesting thing.
because if you think about the people that didn't get on that ship
And the person that was on
and their
that ship.
names of the people that got on that
yeah.
ship
That's
and
right.
the Federal Reserve that was created after the
After?
ship sank,
yeah,
There's a
the
lot
Titanic
going
is-
on there.
play the X Files.
You know, oh my god. Well, really, I mean the Titanic. So the most wealthy landowner in America died on the Titanic, and there's a lot of questions to, was that really an accident?
He was against the central bank.
He was against the central
was
bank.
That's
against the
right. He
central
was
bank.
against the
Reserve.
central bank, and the other three wanted the central bank.
Yes.
And one of them was J.P. Morgan.
Yes.
Yes, but by taking
Who
taking out,
survived?
by sinking the
Because he
Titanic,
backed out.
by sinking the Titanic, they freed up a lot of assets and wealth.
That's
They
right.
freed up a lot of independent wealth.
Yeah.
They almost got Molly Brown.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's an interesting thing, and also back then, I mean, you're talking about what was that, 1912?
Yeah.
There wasn't social media or internet, or it was just the newspaper.
No.
Right.
And what you
And
read,
how
we didn't have
long did
radio.
it
Well, they
take?
had what? Did
How
they even have
long
radio
But how
back
long
then?
did it take? What's that?
I guess
Yeah.
they would have had radio, but radio would have
Or
been
telegraph.
Well, they had shortwave radio.
Yeah.
Telegraph.
Yeah, they would. I mean, communication was so
But there was no
infantile
such
back then.
I don't think there was such thing as disinformation back then.
Oh, there was.
There was.
It was through the newspaper.
No. The deep
Disinformation's
state
been around a lot longer than that.
The deep
Andrew.
state has been around for a
what
very
you're
long
saying
time.
is they've been sending smoke signals that
the
lied.
Egyptians had disinformation, all right?
I mean, the fact that the Titanic hit an iceberg is disinformation
don't
right
get me
there.
started
Oh
on
my
how
goodness,
religions
I
are
was
founded,
being
okay?
facetious.
Okay.
Don't get me started on how religions are founded.
I was being facetious.
Yeah, disinformation's been around for thousands of years.
Right.
Man, your cave is better than mine. That's how far it goes back.
Yeah, it's very bright in there.
Yeah.
We have lots of fires burning
Yeah.
all at once.
I've got 3 families in my cave. What do you have? All right. I'm
Whoa.
A little TMI.
Yeah, it's no.
done. Not like that. Never mind.
But Trump pointed this out. He was the only president in 70 years not to start any foreign conflicts or wars.
And why is that?
Well, he's anti-war, first of all,
and also,
and
he won't ponder to the complex.
pander.
Pander.
Ponder. Yeah, pander.
Yeah, he'll
Sorry.
ponder lots of
He'll
things. He
ponder
won't
lots
pander.
of things, yes, for
Yeah.
sure, but he won't
Wrong-
pander.
wrong
He won't pander
wrong
to
word.
those
He's not going to put a chick in it
Word
and
to
make it
No,
rainbows.
But you know what I mean, though. Like he won't pander
Well,
to.
he's going to do what he believes is right,
right.
and
And he's more of a peacemaker.
I think we would all make mistakes along the way because nobody's infallible. But I do
No, but-
believe that he is doing what he believes is right for
Well,
the
you have to
country,
and
admit,
he learned a lot the first
Yeah,
time
and-
around.
and not being. And he's
killing
definitely
regimes, taking over other countries.
he's definitely a president that was not handled and told what to do.
well, that's why they
He
didn't
can't
like him.
Yeah, I mean, look at Joe Biden. He's got they
He's
used
the
his
devil.
wife to
No, Obama's hand is up his butt, making him talk.
But
that's the way I
Joe
see
Biden
it.
has handlers that walk him to the stage, walk him to events. They prep him. They make sure he's drugged up so he can talk. I mean,
Drugged
Or
up, man.
they give him speed to make him angry.
Bro, he needs a couple.
and they bribe him with his icy cream. I mean,
Bro, he needs a couple hours.
boy,
he
ice
needs
cream.
a couple hours in the life chamber or whatever it is that we got in the
the med
movies.
bed or
Yeah,
the
med beds.
cryo chamber.
Yeah.
well, that's unless
holy
it's not
cow.
even. I mean, do you even think it's the same guy? I mean, the Biden.
Oh, there's no
have
way.
have you seen
Yeah.
the stuff on the Biden versus
Well,
Biden?
why is he always
I mean-
squinting? I'm always wondering what.
Because the lights are bright.
Yeah. But he never used to squint
it's
before.
I love it when he reads the quiet part out loud.
Oh, yeah.
From off the teleprompter.
Pause.
Pause for applause. And I mean, he's just like,
I personally love it when he falls off the stage. That's just my favorite.
so other things that Trump brought up in his speech this weekend. He said we're going to limit the federal government. We're going to deregulate,
Right.
which he's always been about, the deregulation. He also mentioned Ross Ulbricht and releasing Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah,
That's
that was
right, on day
interesting.
one.
I think he got a pretty good reaction out of the crowd from that. Considering he was heckled most of his speech, and there's
Yeah,
certainly
people were definitely shouting stuff.
there's a left wing liberal insurrection in the Libertarian Party, I think.
I think there's a left wing insurrection everywhere.
Well, but
That's exactly what I. That's
everywhere.
exactly what I said.
So this is no
mean-
different, right? But libertarian is at its core a conservative political ideology, even if you take out the family values, because they're not real heavy on that stuff. They want everybody to live their life and be themselves.
Right.
But conservative in that they more than any other party want the government limited.
Right.
Which is exactly why they're trying to splinter that.
Yeah.
They're trying to infiltrate and destroy everything conservative because
it's kind of the best of both worlds.
They need to push their agenda.
How many Democrats do you think were in that crowd?
I don't even know how big the crowd was to begin with, but it sounded like there were a couple thousand people.
It looked like there were a couple thousand people maybe in
I think that there were more. They were more up front, and
Well, they were planted.
of course they were planted.
they were there to
but
make 'em look
what I
bad.
was trying to get at is that the chairwoman of the party,
Right.
before the whole thing started,
Yeah.
started talking to the MAGA people, telling them to get out of the front area because that belonged to the libertarian delegates who needed to be persuaded. And she...
Well, it is their convention.
It is their convention.
It is their convention, and I actually can't blame them for that.
But she was talking about calling security and don't make me call security. She sounded very eloquent. But
well, unfortunately, there are a lot of
uneducated.
Yeah, and just unrefined people at these events sometimes. That the loudmouths and the circus folk that just have to be up front and they have to be heard and they make no sense. They don't think before they speak. We could even call them NPCs, right? Like the whole...
Which one is that? Oh, he's turning it up. What was that?
So
we'll find out soon.
Oh, you know what it was. But
I'm gonna have to get headphones.
The NPCs, the people that just want to get up there and shout and be heard and make noise, and they don't really show up to listen.
Right.
But
they're paid to make noise.
Yeah, they're agitators. They're agitators,
but
and I think
mean,
some of them are liberal agitators, and there probably were some MAGA, agitators in the crowd too.
There were,
which may have been her concern. Was you have these people?
Well, there's always a couple bad apples in the bunch.
Of course.
I mean,
but it is their convention and their party, and I don't blame her for not wanting those people ruining the message. So
no. So what was the overall temperature? If you take it of,
I think it was
Trump. How was he received?
By the by the people present. I hate to even say libertarians because I'm not convinced that they're all libertarians.
No, they
weren't.
No, call it what it was. They were Democrats.
I think there were a lot of liberal leftists in the crowd.
But there were a lot of MAGA people there too.
And there were some MAGA people too that wanted to see Trump.
Right.
There were.
I mean, I would have loved to have been there.
I would have crashed that
cool.
party.
Yeah. and I would have done so in a polite way because I consider myself a libertarian, but
most MAGAs are.
But they are politically, in terms of political theory, libertarian is very conservative.
Right.
In terms of limiting government, they're probably the most conservative.
Yeah, the ideological behind it. Yeah.
And, they have nominated a presidential candidate that is a mask mandate,
LGBTQ.
I mean, that's fine.
Even
all that
the
is
LGB
fine,
thing, from a libertarian's perspective, if he wants to be that's fine. But the mask thing is about
mandate,
personal rights.
Yeah, personal rights. That's
more,
infringing on the rights.
And I cannot believe
not just that. It's about silencing people. The mask.
Yes.
Well, it's control.
Yes, it's
of course.
control.
It's all about control.
And he was, to me, when I saw that, he was advocating that.
It is the antithesis of
Libertarian
ideology.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the libertarians back in the founding years of our country, there were many libertarians and
they didn't call themselves that, but yeah, I mean you had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
Right, which were more the Anti-Federalists.
Well, yeah, they were the Anti-Federalists, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
but we also didn't have these same social issues. You didn't have, America has become a more diverse country. Right or wrong, it's become a more diverse country since then.
What I just mean is this Libertarian Party's always kind of been around. It's starting to now come to the forefront.
The
Especially
ideology
with the fact
is certainly part of the founding of this country.
Sure.
Well,
it's in the 10th Amendment.
Right. You're right. That's what I mean.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Andrew.
Yeah, the United States of America.
But it's turned into something a little different, I think.
Well, politics has perversed it.
Of course.
Like everything else. Imagine that.
Well, yeah, I mean, all right. What else, Steve?
Well, I mean, I think...
where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? Well,
do you think it's going to be a positive thing for the election? Because look, ultimately, a vote that takes away from Biden, right, even though he's not officially running, right, or a vote that takes away from the Democratic caucus.
I agree with you on that.
I think leftists...
that's good. But as long as it doesn't go to the independent party,
I think leftists, whether it's Democrats or just the crazy left extreme,
right.
if they're voting libertarian for some reason, then go ahead. I don't think they realize how different libertarian is from what they typically support.
No, because
when they vote for Democrats,
our democratic voting structure, the way this country's been going because of the deep state and all that, is going more towards socialism.
the question is,
Right?
how many of the
Hurtling toward socialism.
But it's crazy because democracy is not socialism.
No, but democracy can very
It's a slippery
easily
slope, apparently.
turn into socialism because the majority can
fall prey to it,
silence
yeah.
the minority,
Right,
which is why our republic is so important.
right.
well, libertarian could be summed up as having the right to be stupid, but the pragmatic intellect to know not to exercise that right.
Right.
Just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean you should
do it.
exercise it.
Exactly.
And so,
I think
this
that's
goes
maturity and constraint.
Yeah, I mean, this goes for anything, including voting. I don't believe everybody should vote. I believe everyone has the right to,
Right.
but I don't believe people should vote if they're not interested in what's going on.
No, if you're not informed,
If you're not informed and you don't want to be informed and you just don't
I
care,
don't want you to vote.
Don't.
Yeah.
Why would you?
yeah, I mean,
I don't want you to vote.
You're just checking a box because you have
Right.
the right to check a box
Exactly.
at that point.
right,
So
which is very dangerous.
I think we need more of that, and that's where democracy becomes a problem. Is you have people voting for things and supporting things without knowing what those things are,
They
without
just hear
understanding what
all
they're
they
supporting.
hear is the blah blah blah.
Well,
and,
they listen to
should vote for that.
mainstream media.
Exactly.
And that's my big problem.
Well, mainstream media or just groupthink, mob
Or
mentality,
groupthink, yeah.
which is just as dangerous. I mean, you have a mob of people that says, "Hey, we're gonna hang Andrew."
Oh boy,
What did Andrew do?
what did Andrew do?
You know, the Ross Ulbricht
Andrew sneezed
thing.
the wrong way.
The Ross Ulbricht thing is probably a good example of that because the libertarians largely disagree with Ross Ulbricht being in prison. He created the Silk Road website,
Right.
which at its core is a free market economy, anonymous trading.
Well, it's part of the internet,
uses
which is
Bitcoin.
Internet Commons, and like you should have the right to the internet.
The problem is that people figured out that they could sell drugs over this platform.
They
started using it for
they
that.
exploited it
And
as anything else.
Because it was anonymous, he took the fall because he created a website
right.
and took the fall for the illicit activities
Right.
of the users of his website.
Which, I mean, I guess that's an honorable thing to do.
Right, but he's got two life
But you're-
sentences
two life
plus
sentences.
40 years.
Yeah. For
Yeah,
making a
that's-
website
what-
and all
what-
because of
I mean, if
What
he
is-
if he had the resources to create that, he probably should have had the resources to run away from it too.
Not necessarily.
well, not
His
necessarily.
resources is your mind. It's
But this comes down to
I just mean he probably would have, if he had the resources on the dark web. I just mean he probably could have made himself. More
But this
of a-
this comes down to
he probably
not when
could
it
have
comes to
escaped.
the government. They know they
but this
infiltrate
comes
everything.
down
That's
to
true.
the what is the responsibility of him creating the website in terms of control and authority. And the libertarians believe he should be freed from jail because it's not his responsibility to control the actions of other people.
Well, that's kind of like, you
particularly as a private individual.
Yeah,
himself.
Wayfair can traffic children.
Yeah.
Well, now see, that's where Silk Road is different. One, Ross Ulbricht, according to the court documents, never harmed anybody himself.
Right.
And his website explicitly prohibited things
Human
like
trafficking.
human
Right.
trafficking, child pornography,
Any
acts
of
of
that.
violence,
Right.
things of that nature. So, drugs was kind of a gray area for his website because it's two people engaging in a consensual trade.
It's just a
But who
transaction.
from
and
Wayfair
they were
has gone to
transac-
jail?
Well,
wanna know.
But the Wayfair thing,
the Pizzagate thing is still fringe. Like
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
fringe.
It's not fringe anymore.
mean,
It's
the
coming
whole
out.
any evidence
but-
of it has largely been destroyed.
That's
unless
not true. There's adrenochrome.
Well, what's new?
Oh boy.
Well,
Is this
this
Diddy
is a
stuff?
whole another episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough.
We should wrap this one up and
Probably.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I think the main takeaways from Trump's speech this weekend were he asked for their
For their
endorsement,
vote.
Yep,
For their-
endorsement.
which I think is huge, and I think that any reasonable libertarian should consider voting for Trump.
Yep.
I do believe that, and I believe it's because the Democrats are not a real choice for libertarians.
They're not a real
just-
choice
they're
for
not a real
anyone.
choice.
Well, they're
Right.
not. But if you have any kind of conservative ideology, the Democrats are just out. They're not. Why would you ever vote for a Democrat as a libertarian?
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Right.
So and he is offering to put Libertarian Party members in his
In
cabinet,
his
and in
cabinet
places
and
of
in
authority.
senior positions.
Yeah, when he said that was interesting.
I think that gives them. I mean, if they're concerned about growing
their own real
their
chance.
ideology and their platform,
Well, that's
they
their
have a
chance.
much better chance by getting people in,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
in his administration.
they're not going to win.
No.
So then
Their
Now with-
3% vote
now
is
with
worth
that
nothing. If
the,
they-
only,
Candidate.
the closest they're going to get to the White House is with Trump.
yes,
That's right.
That
Really.
would
I mean-
advance them further than they've ever been.
That's right.
I mean, if you could get, Secretary of like Housing or something, or
I mean, in any position in the cabinet would be a
that would be
win.
interesting.
Well, yeah.
Education.
I mean, I think you put a libertarian in charge of finance. That's a great place for him. Fiscal conservatives, libertarians.
That's why I said housing, because
Yeah, I mean, put them in charge of the purse strings to keep government programs from bloating and the budget from bloating
Keep the Fed
and
in
expanding.
Agreed.
That would be a good place for a libertarian, I think. Personally, that's just me. If you like government programs, you may not agree with that opinion. But you look at what Javier Milei did in Argentina.
slashing the
He
budget.
slashed 80% of the government programs. I love that.
He
Yeah,
is
I
not
mean-
messing
Well,
around.
80% of the government programs are already duplicated here. So
That video,
And the rest are meaningless. They don't provide value to the citizens. They,
of course not.
no, they just pad.
It's all
government.
it's all red tape.
Or in many cases, private industry does a better job.
Yeah, well, I
that's his whole
I have also my thoughts on private industry. I think that private industry is in bed with the government and
Certain
private
ones,
industry.
Right.
Yeah, when we talk about like
And-
insurance and healthcare, that's stuff
and
gets
the
ugly.
drug.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
industry.
But in terms of like research and development and scientific studies and stuff, private industry is going to, spend
agree
way
with
more
that.
money and make way more advancements because
I
there's
agree with
profit
that.
to be made.
well,
I agree
and
with that.
because they're more mobile that way.
Yeah.
But
have-
they can't
have
be too
more-
big either, because then they have too much power.
Who private industry?
Yes.
Now you're starting to sound like a Democrat.
Monopolies.
That's
I'm
kinda
talking about.
socialism.
I'm talking more capitalism. I'm talking about monopolies. I'm talking about monopolies. And
Yeah.
I'm talking about mom and pop, because mom and pop is what this country
That's what it was founded on.
was founded on. Okay,
And that's where
so
minimal,
that's what
like,
I'm
yeah.
talking about is true competition, not monopolies. That when they get too big, that's when they get in bed with government, and that's when they control us.
Yeah, and that's going to be the contradiction, right? Is you want to
Yeah.
deregulate, but then how do you prevent
But if you-
monopolies
that's
and how
right,
do you
because
protect consumers
Well,
from
because
that's a
scams
good-
and yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Yeah, so that's
I know, it's a- I know,
that
it's-
goes back to the do no harm. Okay, so I mean, if
oh yeah.
it's okay to have a monopoly if you're not doing harm to people.
Right.
If you're not scamming people and taking advantage.
But once you
of
get
them.
in bed with the government and start
who
colluding,
decides? Yeah.
Well, that's like the antitrust stuff.
and being completely rational, like trying to be as honest as I can be about that, and trying to be objective about it. I think that's where the libertarian ideology struggles, is where do you place the line between the free market and protecting the consumer
Right.
from and who decides what is
What is
right
fair?
and wrong in that.
because ultimately the people
because
make
fairness is kind of low on the values spectrum
Well,
in
and
that
fairness
ideology,
can be very weighted.
yeah.
Fairness is question.
It's subjective. It's
not
subjective.
But I think-
yeah.
No, it's subjective, not objective, right?
But
It's subjective.
Subjective.
to
Correct.
round out
Yeah.
that discussion also, when people can't afford food, when people can't
Well,
afford
that's-
healthcare,
Yeah.
then maybe that's where the line is.
Well,
I
that's
think, yeah.
right. But it's like some
You know.
people say, oh, healthcare is better than it's ever been. And then some will say, no, it's not. So it's like,
It's crap.
If you have insurance, it's not bad.
No,
Sure.
it's not great either. Okay.
Yeah. If you
It's
have
also-
access to healthcare, it's great.
But it's also very expensive.
Yeah, access seems to be the problem, and I don't know what the solution is. Maybe a hybrid program or something.
Yeah, access to healthcare in one of the best countries in the world.
Yeah, but I can tell you where I would start. I would stop spending money overseas and start spending it on healthcare.
Bing, bing, bing.
That's one place to start.
Stop giving money to other countries.
I would stop spending money on unnecessary government programs like gay cowboy poetry.
Gay cowboy poetry.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
That's
money we could be spending
That's
on
right.
healthcare
That's
and
right.
What
education.
is- never mind.
Yeah.
I know what it is, but
Yeah.
The
Stupid government programs.
that was a TARP thing from the Obama years, back when they passed the TARP program and during the recession.
Oh, yeah.
And they were putting all this money into like all these government programs to.
oh yeah.
And one of the things was like millions of dollars for gay cowboy poets to go to study in Africa, because there's lots of cowboys in Africa, right?
Well, a lot of gay ones then.
I mean, I didn't know cowboys lived in Africa.
Well,
I thought that was a purely American
They all
thing.
went to Africa to get the money.
I thought
I
cowboys were.
thought cowboys were.
There
I
you
thought
go.
that was a purely American, and I don't mean like United States, but I like North and South America, because Latin America has lots of cowboys.
Well, I think
but there's no
Brokeback
cowboys in
Mountain
Africa.
is in Africa.
Oh no.
They would have been. They could have at least sent them
We're
to South
going off the
America where they have real
rails.
cowboys.
Maybe
Going
it's
off-
time to end the
off
show.
We're going off the rails.
All right. Well, I hope we've been enlightening tonight. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and leave us some comments. This was a lot to cover tonight, and we hope to catch you in the
Thanks,
next episode. Yeah. So don't forget to share this with your friends.
Bye,
and
guys.
Stay tuned.
We'll see ya.